The strange auction on planet Draxus. The desert winds of planet Draxus howled through the dark steel alleys of the outlaw market. The air was dry, filled with smoke and alien scents. Strange beings walked through the massive auction center, some with 4 arms, others with glowing eyes. Loud voices echoed from every corner, shouting bids and laughing cruelly. In the middle of this chaos stood an old human. His name was Garrick. His white beard was short, his long coat dusty. He walked with a slight limp, but his eyes, sharp and clear, looked around like a man who had seen too many wars. People stared at him. "What's an old Earthman doing here?" One lizard-faced alien whispered. "Looks like someone brought their grandfather to a slave market." Another laughed, but Garrick didn't respond. He moved forward calmly and entered the main auction chamber, where thick iron cages held what the galaxy called merchandise. Inside those cages sat alien girls, some with glowing skin, others with strange tattoos, horns, or shining hair. All of them looked scared. All of them looked broken. The auction master, a fat creature with 6 fingers and a golden mouthpiece, stood on a high platform. Next up, 3 rare beauties, different planets, different powers, special offer. Sold as a group. One by one, the girls were pushed forward. The first had green skin and burning yellow eyes. Her body was strong, almost like a soldier. Her name was Rainari. She did not beg. She only looked straight ahead with silent rage. The second was thin, with soft pink skin and small glowing dots across her arms. Her hair floated gently around her face as if in zero gravity. Her name was Yali. She was quiet, but her eyes flicked around, searching for something, maybe hope. The third looked the youngest. She had short silver hair and bright purple skin. She was crying silently. Her name was Lexa. Opening bid, 5,000. "Credits!" the auction master shouted. The crowd roared. A giant insect man raised his hand. 6,000! A merchant with a steel mask shouted. 7! Then a voice cut through the crowd. Calm, deep, 10,000. Everyone turned. Garrick stepped forward, placing his credit chip on the scanner. Silence filled the air. The auction master blinked in surprise. 10,000 from the old human? Are you sure?" "I am," Garrick replied. "Going once. Going twice." "Wait!" a voice yelled. A tall, red-armored bounty hunter stomped forward. "These girls belong to Lord Kothar. You can't sell what isn't yours." The auction master laughed nervously. "Well, the bounty hasn't arrived yet. Legally, they are unclaimed." Garrick turned his eyes toward the bounty hunter. "Is there a problem?" The hunter growled, but didn't step closer. He saw the way Garrick's hand hovered near the weapon on his belt. "Fine," the hunter hissed. "But you'll regret it." The auction master slammed the bell. "Sold, to the brave old human." As the crowd clapped and jeered, Garrick walked toward the cage. The 3 girls didn't move. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said softly. Rainari stared at him with suspicion. "Why buy us?" "To set you free." Yali blinked. "Free?" Lixa wiped her tears. "You're lying. No one frees us." Garrick, press the cage open. Then walk. The door is open. They didn't move. Not because they didn't want to, but because they didn't believe. Outside, the crowd watched, confused. Why wasn't he touching them? Why wasn't he taking control? Instead, Garrick walked away, giving them space. The girls slowly followed, carefully like animals afraid of a trap. Back on his small ship, Garrick offered them clean clothes, food, and soft blankets. No cages, no chains. Rainari stood in the corner with crossed arms. "What's your game, old man?" "No game," he said, placing a key on the table. "This opens the ship's escape pod. If any of you want to leave, use it. No one will stop you." The girls looked at the key. Then, none of them took it. That night, Garrick sat in the pilot chair looking out at the stars. Suddenly he heard soft footsteps. Lixa stood near the door, holding a blanket, eyes wide. "Can I sleep near you?" "Of course." He nodded. Minutes later, Yali and Renari joined as well. None of them felt safe sleeping alone. As they settled near him, Lixa whispered, "Why are you doing this?" Garrick didn't answer right. Away. Then, in a low voice, he said, "Because once, someone should have saved my family, but no one did." The room fell silent, and somewhere far away, in the shadows of the galaxy, a warlord named Kothar learned that his slaves had been taken. His eyes burned with rage. "Find the human," he growled, "and burn whatever he loves." He gave them the key, but they didn't run. The morning sun of Draxes never rose. The planet was always dark, with a violet sky and twin moons. Garrick's ship, the Solace, was parked quietly at the edge of a dried lakebed. The engines were cold, the lights low. Inside it was peaceful, but tension still filled the air. The three alien girls sat around a small table. Warm food steamed in front of them. For a moment it felt like a family breakfast, but no one spoke. Garrick walked in, wearing a clean shirt, his long coat hanging behind him. He looked less like a buyer, and more like a soldier, pretending to be retired. "I'm heading into the next station," he said. "You're free to go if you want. No one will stop you." He placed the silver key on the table again, same as the night before. Renari's yellow eyes narrowed. "You say we're free, but you still carry weapons." Garrick looked at her. Calm, serious. "Because I don't trust this galaxy, but I do trust you." Renari didn't reply. Her muscles were tight, always ready for a fight. She wasn't used to calm words. Yali spoke next, softly. "Are we useful to you?" "No," Garrick replied without hesitation. "You don't owe me anything. Not service, not thanks, not loyalty." Lixa's eyes widened. "Then why did you help us?" Garrick looked out the window. "Because I wish someone had helped my daughter." Silence. Renari followed him out later, walking beside him as he prepared his hoverbike. "You were a soldier," she said. "Not a question, an observation." "I was many things," Garrick said. "Mostly tired." Renari tilted her head. "So what happens now? You'll just feed us and let us stay until we leave? You can leave right now." She crossed her arms. "What if I stabbed you in your sleep?" Garrick stared at her. "Then I'd be dead. But at least I died trying to do the right thing." Renari didn't know how to respond. No one had ever trusted her like this, not even her own people. Meanwhile, Lixa explored the small medical bay on the ship. She found photos stuck to the wall, old, faded images of humans, a woman and a child. The child had green eyes like Garrick. She stared at the photo. Yali stood behind her. "That was his family," she whispered. "You can feel the pain from the picture." Lixa nodded slowly. "He said someone should have saved them. What do you think happened?" "I think he's carrying ghosts," Yali said. "And now he's trying to save someone else. To silence them." Lixa's hand touched the photo gently. "Then maybe we stay just a little longer." That night something changed. Alarms blared. Garrick jumped from his seat and ran to the control panel. 3 red dots were approaching fast. Renari was already in the armory. Tracking signals, small ships, light arms, probably bounty hunters. "Coming for the girls," Garrick said. "No," Renari corrected. "Coming for your cargo, us." He looked at her. "We'll stop them." "You mean you will?" "I'm not hiding." She pulled a laser blade from the wall. To Garrick's surprise, Yali entered next, eyes glowing. "I can jam their signals." Lixa arrived with shaky hands but determined eyes. "I'll stay in the med bay. I can treat wounds." "You're not trained," Garrick started. "I was a nurse. Before they took me," she whispered. He paused. For the first time, the girls were not just frightened passengers. They were part of his ship. His team. The attack came fast. 3 bounty hunters, all wearing black breathing masks, landed with hover bikes and plasma rifles. Raynari was the first to strike. She moved like lightning, blade slicing through the air. One hunter fell within seconds. The second fired toward the ship. Garrick rolled out, returned fire with perfect aim, 1 shot, 1 kill. The third managed to sneak past them, right toward the ship's door. Yali was waiting. With a simple whisper, her voice shifted frequency. The hunter screamed and fell, clutching his head in pain. Inside, Lixa stood with her trembling, hands on a medical scanner, ready to save whoever got hurt. After the fight, Garrick sat on the ship steps, breathing hard. Raynari threw a water bottle at him. "You move better than a man your age should." "I ache like one afterward," he muttered. Yali sat near them. "They'll send more. These weren't top hunters, just the first wave." "I know," Garrick said. Lixa joined them, holding bandages. "Why don't we run far away?" "Because running doesn't erase marks," Garrick replied. Raynari looked confused. "What marks?" He lifted his sleeve. There, etched into his skin, was a glowing scar, a tattoo of a forgotten unit from Earth's past. It pulsed with light. Raynari whispered, Is that from Project Valiant?" Yali gasped. "That unit was erased in the War of 10 Suns." Garrick said nothing. Now they understood. He wasn't just kind, he was dangerous, and tired of. Later that night, the silver key still sat on the table, untouched. Yali picked it up. Lixa looked at her. "You're leaving?" Yali smiled. "No, I'm locking the escape pod, so no one can leave." Raynari laughed softly. "We're staying then?" Yali nodded. "He didn't save us so we'd serve him. He saved us so we could choose. I choose to stay." They all looked toward Garrick's room. Behind that calm voice and tired eyes was a man who had lost everything and still chose to protect others. None of them wanted to walk away anymore. Now, they wanted to know what came next. Enemies don't like a free girl. The stars above Draxus blinked like silent watchers in the void. But peace never lasted long for those who defied power. Inside the Solace, Garrick leaned against the ship's steel wall, checking the small scanner in his hand. "We need to leave this sector," he said, his voice low but steady. That ambush wasn't the last. Raynari stood nearby, arms crossed, eyes alert. "Whoever sent those bounty hunters will not give up. They weren't hired to capture," Yali added, stepping into the room, her glowing fingertips still faintly lit from earlier. "They were told to erase us, all 3. Lixa sat at the edge of the medbay door, hugging her knees. "We're not safe anywhere, are we?" "No," Garrick said honestly. "But if we run smart, we can buy time. And maybe, just maybe, we find someone willing to help." Raynari looked doubtful. "The galaxy doesn't care about 3 freed girls and 1 broken man." But Garrick's eyes burned with something new. Determination. "Then we make it care. They set course for a hidden outpost called Cinder Spire, floating in the rings of a dead planet. The place was known for having no laws, only deals. Garrick believed there was a man there, an old contact who could help them disappear. As the Solace slipped through an asteroid belt, Garrick explained his plan. "His name is Kalros, ex-Intel. Now he sells identities and erases digital footprints. He can make you vanish." "You used to work with him?" Yali asked. "Long ago," Garrick said, "before I stopped being a soldier and started being human again." They reached the station. Cinder Spire wasn't beautiful. It looked like a broken sword stabbed into an asteroid. But it was alive with movement. Strange creatures, glowing. Lights, weapon dealers, hackers, even food carts that smelled both spicy and illegal. Raynari growled softly. "Too many eyes, I feel watched." "You are watched," Garrick said. "That's why you stay close." They stepped off the ship and moved through the twisting tunnels of the station. Garrick's eyes scanned every shadow, every movement. Old instincts never faded. They entered a hidden chamber through a sealed door marked with ancient Terran code. Inside was Kalros. He was no longer fully human. His left side was mechanical and one of his eyes blinked like a red beacon, but his voice was smooth as ever. "Garrick," he smiled. "I thought you were dead." "I was," Garrick said. "Then I met them." Kalros looked at the girls. His mechanical eye scanned each one. "Ah, so they are the reason." Garrick nodded. "I need papers, new IDs, ghost files. I want them untouchable." Kalros leaned forward. "And what are you offering in return?" Garrick pulled out a memory chip. "Black data from Project Valiant classified pre-fall." Kalros's eye blinked faster. "You're mad. This kind of thing could start wars, or stop one," Garrick replied coldly. Kalros stared at him. Then he smiled. "Deal." While Kalros worked, the girls waited in a small lounge above the station. Raynari stayed by the window, watching for movement. Yali meditated. Lixa walked, nervously in circles. "I don't trust that man," Raynari muttered. "He's helping us," Yali said calmly. "He's selling help," Raynari replied. "And people who sell loyalty often sell lies too." Lixa sat beside her. "Do you ever relax?" Raynari looked down. "Once, before I was sold." The silence after that was heavy. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the station. Lights flickered. Screams echoed down the halls. Garrick burst into the room. "Move! We've been tracked!" "What?" Raynari shouted, grabbing her blade. Kalros followed, limping, smoke on his jacket. "Your data chip. It sent out a trace signal. Someone. Backdoor hacked my system. We're all targets now." A loud voice filled the station. "Garrick, return the girls or we open fire on this station. You have 5 minutes." Lixa screamed. "It's Kothar's voice. He found us." Outside, warships were gathering. Garrick looked at Kalros. "Get the IDs, get the jump codes." "I need time," Kalros shouted. "Buy it with your life then," Garrick growled, then grabbed the girls. "We're getting out." They raced through the burning tunnels. Fires exploded around them. Mercenaries fired blindly. Civilians screamed. Raynari fought at Garrick's side, cutting down attackers with deadly speed. Yali used her voice to make enemies collapse in confusion. Lixa dragged a wounded girl behind a crate, saving someone even in chaos. But as they neared the docking bay, a massive metal door sealed shut. "Locked!" Garrick yelled. Then from the smoke, a giant armored figure stepped forward. It was Lord Kothar, 9 feet tall, covered in black armor. His red eyes glowed like lava. "You think you can take what is mine, human?" Kothar growled. "They were never yours," Garrick shouted. Kothar laughed. "Everything in this galaxy is bought, even freedom. But now you'll die with your pretty toys." He raised his cannon arm and fired. Boom! The blast struck Garrick, throwing him across the hallway. Lixa screamed. Raynari attacked, her blade slashing at Kothar. But it bounced off his armor. He grabbed her by the throat and slammed her to the wall. "Pathetic," Kothar hissed. "Yali," screamed, her voice turning into a pulse wave. But Kothar activated a jammer. "Your tricks won't save you." Suddenly, a small beep echoed behind him. Kothar turned. Garrick, bleeding but alive, pointed a small round device at him. "You forgot. What kind of soldier I used to be." Click, a blast of blue light exploded, knocking Kothar back. His armor cracked. Raynari dropped, coughing. Garrick stood slowly. "If I die today," he said, aiming his gun, "I'll die for something worth saving." Kalros's voice came through. "They're earpieces. Your ship is online. Run now or all of us die." The girls helped Garrick stand. They raced to the Solace. Doors shut. Engines screamed as they lifted into orbit. Kothar's ships fired but missed. The Solace vanished into hyperspace. They escaped. For now. Later, inside the quiet ship, Garrick lay on a bed, arm in a sling. Raynari sat beside him. "You nearly died." But I didn't. He smiled weakly. Yali stood behind her. You risked your life. Again. I made a choice, Garrick said. Same one I'll make every time. Lixa walked in, holding a box. We found something, she said. Calros gave us the new IDs before we left. She opened the box. Inside were 3 ID chips, and a 4th. Garrick looked confused. A 4th? Raynari picked it up. It says, spouse bond registered. Yali and Lixa looked at each other. None of them spoke. But in that silent room, a truth filled the air. These girls were no longer just rescued. They had chosen him, and someone had registered it legally. He wasn't saving them, they were saving him. The stars outside the ship looked calm, but inside the Solace a storm was brewing, quiet, emotional, powerful. Garrick sat at the dining table, bandaged and pale. The wound on his side still hurt, but he had refused to rest. The girls had been avoiding him all morning, whispering behind closed doors. He wasn't sure why. He stared at the 4th ID chip again. Spouse bond registered. Earth human. Garrick. Alien registrants, Raynari, Yali, Lixa. It didn't make sense. He never registered such a bond, or had one of them done it? Suddenly the door opened. All 3 girls stood there. Serious, silent. Raynari stepped forward. We need to talk. Garrick straightened. Is this about the ID chip? Yes, Yali said. But it's more than that. Lixa looked nervous but brave. We want to stay, not just because we're hunted, not because we have nowhere else to go. We want to stay with you, Raynari finished. By choice. Garrick's face didn't move, but his hand tightened around the edge of the table. You understand what this means? He asked, voice low. Raynari nodded. We're warriors, survivors, slaves no more. We know what we choose. Yali stepped closer. You didn't just save us from a cage. You taught us what dignity feels like. Lixa wiped a tear. And what kindness sounds like. Garrick sighed, eyes closing. I'm not a hero. I'm just tired. That's why you need us, Raynari said. You saved us from chains. Now we save you from loneliness. The next few days changed everything. The ship felt warmer, not because of heat, but presence. Laughter returned, slowly. Meals were shared. Jokes were told. Raynari trained in the lower cargo hold, now converted into a sparring room. Garrick watched. From the sidelines, her blade movements were fierce and beautiful. You're getting slower, she smirked, tossing him a practice staff. Because I'm old, he grunted. No, she said. You're carrying too much weight from the past. That hit harder than her blade ever could. Meanwhile, Yali installed a defense AI into the ship. Her fingers moved fast over glowing controls. She was quiet, elegant, her voice a weapon and a comfort. Lixa set up a healing pod in the medbay and started growing strange alien herbs from her home planet. The ship was becoming a home. But danger never stayed away for long. One night, as the crew gathered for dinner, a silent alarm flashed red on the screen. Yali stood quickly. We're being tracked. Raynari's blade was already in her hand. Who? Yali tapped on the screen. Not Kothar. Something worse. Garrick moved beside her and froze. Unit. Night Widow. He stepped back, stunned. Raynari noticed. You know them? They're not bounty hunters, he said. They're exterminators. Lixa's voice shook. Exterminators? Garrick nodded. They're sent when powerful people want someone erased from history. Not just killed. Forgotten. Yali gasped. They've already entered our zone. The chase began. The Solace burned through hyperspace. Garrick pushed the ship beyond. Safety levels. Sparks flew. Lixa struggled to keep him stable with medical boosters. Yali fought to jam the signal. They're using a ghost link. I can slow them, but not stop them. Rainari armed every weapon system. Let them come. Are you crazy? Lixa shouted. These aren't normal attackers. They're coming to take our family, Rainari growled. And I won't let that happen. Garrick looked at them all. This wasn't just a crew anymore. It was something deeper. The Night Widow ships caught up. Black spider-shaped vessels with glowing red webs around them. Silent. No warnings. No communication. Just pure death. The battle exploded. Yali screamed as their hacking pulses hit the ship. Lixa rushed to seal broken sections. Rainari fired missile after missile, but the Night Widow tech was too advanced. One enemy ship landed directly on the hull. We're being boarded, Garrick shouted. Rainari ran toward the breach, blade ready. A creature stepped through, tall, faceless, armor like black glass. It had no voice, only a scream of static. They fought. Hard. Rainari slashed, kicked, stabbed, but it was like fighting. Death itself. Just as the creature raised a glowing blade to strike her down, bang! A single plasma shot hit the creature's core. It collapsed, hissing. Garrick stood behind it, breathing hard. Still got it. Rainari blinked at him. Took you long enough. Meanwhile, Yali overloaded the ship's core to release a shockwave. Everyone hang on, she shouted. A massive blast of light exploded from the Solace, knocking the Night Widow ships back. The ship shook violently. Sparks flew. Then, silence. The Night Widows were gone. For now. The ship was damaged. Systems offline. But they were alive. As the smoke cleared, the crew gathered in the dining room again, bandaged, bruised, but smiling. Rainari raised a cup. To us. To family, Yali said, touching hers to Rainari's. Lixa hugged Garrick from the side, smiling. To home. Garrick didn't speak. He looked at each of them, then at the stars. He never expected love again. Never expected hope. But it was here, in their smiles, in their trust, in their hands holding his. Far away, in the dark systems, a message was sent. Night Widow, failed. Escalate. Activate protocol. Shadow Bride. And in a cold palace on the planet Vorax, Lord Kothar stared at the report. A shadowy figure stepped behind him. Do I proceed? She whispered. Yes, Kothar hissed. Bring me the human, alive, and the girl in chains. The proposal that wasn't a proposal. The ship drifted in silent orbit around a red gas planet. Systems were half working. The engines needed repairs. But for now they were safe, or so they thought. Inside the Solace, Lixa carefully changed. Garrick's bandages while Rainari sharpened her blade nearby. Yali sat at the console, humming softly, trying to reroute damaged power nodes. Despite the chaos of their escape from the Night Widows, something strange filled the ship now. Warmth. Not the kind from machines, but from hearts that were beginning to trust each other. Garrick leaned back, wincing slightly. I think that shot cracked a rib. You think? Rainari scoffed. You were unconscious for 3 hours. Only 3? Garrick grinned weakly. I'm getting stronger. Yali turned toward him. We need parts. If we stay dead in space, they'll find us again. We need to land. There's a neutral merchant station nearby, she added. A place called Naraxis Port. It's legal, mostly. Rainari frowned. It's also a place where spies hide in plain sight. We don't have a choice, Garrick said. They landed at Naraxis Port, a floating city built into a shattered moon. Bright lights blinked across its curved towers. Crowds of aliens walked through market streets. Merchants yelled from behind. Glowing stalls. As they stepped off the ship, Garrick adjusted his long coat and whispered, We're here to buy tools. Not attention. But attention is what they got. As they moved through the market, whispers followed them. 3 beautiful, alien women walking beside a human man. It wasn't normal. Some stared in shock, others with envy, and a few with something darker. Garrick found a stall selling the parts he needed. As he negotiated with a robotic dealer, Lixa wandered off slightly, drawn by a glowing display of musical crystals. Her eyes sparkled. That's when a voice behind her purred, "Pretty little thing. You alone?" Lixa turned slowly. A tall alien merchant in a gold robe grinned at her. 2 guards stood behind him. "I'm just looking," she said quietly. He stepped closer. "Come with me. I'll give you a gift." She backed away, heart pounding. The merchant grabbed her wrist. "I said no," she shouted. Suddenly a fist slammed into the merchant's jaw. He hit the ground hard. It was Garrick. He stood there, eyes blazing. She said no. The merchant growled, rubbing his mouth. "You'll pay for that, old man." But the crowd was watching. Nearby guards moved closer. Seeing this as a public dispute, an alien officer stepped in. "By Naraxis law," the officer barked, "this female has been defended by a public claim. Do you confirm intent to bond?" Garrick froze. "What?" The girl cried out. "You struck for her. That's considered an emotional claim under local law. If she accepts, it's legally binding." Lixa turned red. I didn't mean..." The officer pointed a scanner at her. "Do you accept this claim?" Raynari and Yali rushed over. "What's going on?" Raynari barked. "He's being forced to marry her," Yali whispered. Lixa looked at Garrick, eyes wide. "I don't want to trap you." But Garrick looked into her eyes and slowly nodded. "I don't feel trapped," he said gently. "I just feel lucky." The officer pressed a mark to both their hands, sealing it. Just like that, Garrick and Lixa were legally bonded. Back at the ship, things were awkward. Raynari paced. "I can't believe it happened like that." "It was the law," Yali said. Besides, he didn't object. "I know," Raynari muttered. "That's what makes it worse." Lixa sat quietly, holding her bonding mark. "I didn't plan. Hey, I don't blame you," Raynari said softly. She stopped. Garrick entered the room. "I know this complicates things," he said, "but I meant what I said. I didn't do it out of duty." Lixa blushed. Yali smiled faintly. "Then maybe you should hear the rest." Raynari stepped forward, her face hard to read. "We've decided something. If she's your wife," Yali continued, "then we all are." Garrick blinked. "Wait. What?" Raynari smirked. "You saved us together. You fought for us, bled for us. If one is bonded, we're bonded as a unit. That's how some alien clans work." Yali touched his shoulder gently. "We're not here to make it harder, we're here to stay." Garrick looked from one to the other, shocked, speechless. But somewhere deep in his chest, something unlocked. A locked room inside his heart opened. He wasn't alone anymore. But far away, on the shadow planet of Vorax, a new threat was already in motion. Lord Kothar sat inside his cold throne room watching footage from Narax's port. Footage of the emotional claim, of the bond mark. He slammed his fist on the armrest. So the old man thinks he can rewrite the rules with love? A figure appeared beside him, dressed in flowing black robes, her face hidden behind a jeweled mask. She bowed. "You called for Shadow Bride protocol?" Kothar hissed. "I want that human captured, but not killed." "And the girls?" she asked. His eyes gleamed. "Bring them to me. I want them chained in front of him. I want him to see what happens when you take what's mine." She nodded once. "It will be done." Back on the Solace, Garrick sat in the pilot seat. Lixa leaned against his shoulder. Raynari stood behind him. Yali sat on the floor, reading old Earth poetry from a datapad. "Where do we go next?" Lixa asked. "Anywhere but backward," Garrick said. Yali looked up. "The past can chase us, but it can't own us anymore," Raynari added. "And if it tries, we'll face it. Together." None of them noticed the small tracking crystal hidden inside one of the merchant parts they had purchased earlier. It blinked softly, Red waiting. The royal guard versus the old man. The Solace moved through quiet space, unaware that danger clung to its underbelly like a hidden parasite. The red tracking crystal, planted by a disguised merchant, continued to blink. Soft, steady, deadly. Inside, the ship was peaceful. For now. Yali sat at the controls, humming, softly as she adjusted their next jump coordinates. Lixa giggled in the kitchen area as she accidentally spilled sweet blue nectar on Garrick's old jacket. Renari leaned silently against the door, arms crossed, watching them with a rare, soft smile. And Garrick, his face calm but eyes alert, worked in the engine room, tightening old bolts, running diagnostics, and making sure nothing would fall apart mid-jump. But none of them knew. They had already been found, on the far side of the galaxy. Inside the royal fortress of Vorex, Lord Kothar stood before 12 armored titans. His royal guard, genetically enhanced warriors feared across dozens of star systems. Your mission, Kothar snarled, is simple. Bring the human back to me, alive. Kill his wives, break their bond before his eyes. The leader of the guards, a pale, silent giant known only as Spectre, nodded. No mistakes, Kothar warned. I want his spirit shattered. The guards didn't speak. They never did, but they didn't need to. Death would follow their silence. Back on the Solace, Yali's screen suddenly glitched. She blinked. That's strange. Renari stepped closer. What happened? Yali typed quickly. The nav system, it's being hijacked. Garrick rushed to the cockpit. Hijacked? How? Somebody installed a shadow protocol. It was buried. Deep. That merchant, Garrick growled. He planted it. Before they could react, the entire ship jolted. Alarms screamed. The Solace was being pulled, yanked out of hyperspace like a fish on a hook. They dropped out near a cold, dead moon, and waiting in orbit were 12 black ships, no signals, no words. Just dread. Renari stared. Royal Guard. Garrick's face turned pale. You know them? I fought them. Once. And survived? Barely. The enemy boarded in silence. No sirens, no warnings, no communication, just darkness. The ship lights flickered. Power dropped to backup. Then the hull groaned. They were inside. Positions, Garrick yelled. Renari ran to the lower deck. I'll hold the front. Yali stayed at the console, trying to reroute security systems. I'll jam what I can. Lixa pulled Garrick aside. Don't go alone. He gently touched her cheek. I've never felt less alone. Then he kissed her forehead and ran toward the breach. The first royal guard entered like a ghost, tall, heavy, but moved like air. Renari met him head-on. Blade versus brute strength. Metal rang. Sparks flew. Renari dodged a crushing punch, flipped, and stabbed into the guard's armor, but it barely pierced. She grit her teeth. They upgraded. The guard raised a hand, energy pulsing in his palm, and blasted her backward through a wall. Renari groaned but stood again, blood at her mouth, fury in her eyes. She charged again. Garrick took the hallway. 2 royal guards stepped in front of him. He drew 2 plasma pistols. Old models, custom-made, silent killers. They fired. He moved. They blocked. One guard grabbed him and slammed him into the wall. Garrick dropped a smoke charge and vanished into the fog. Blinded, they stumbled. From Tiu, behind, his voice echoed. You were trained to kill, I was trained to survive. 2 clean shots. Straight to the helmet joints. Both dropped, but more were coming. Yali locked herself inside the data hub. She tapped deep into the old Earth programs Garrick kept hidden. She activated Black Echo, a program banned during the War of 10 Suns. It sent out an electronic pulse that temporarily shut down all tracking and comms. They'll fight in the dark now, she whispered. But even as she smiled, she heard a hiss. She turned. A guard stood in the shadows, blade ready. Lixa, alone in the medbay, heard the heavy steps. She grabbed a stun rod. She wasn't a fighter. But she wasn't helpless. The door burst open. She screamed and swung. The rod cracked against the guard's leg. He didn't fall, But he flinched. That was enough. Garrick arrived behind him and tackled the guard to the floor. The two men rolled, punches flying. Garrick finally stabbed a hidden knife under the guard's chin. Silence returned. One by one, the crew fought back, bleeding, bruised, but alive. Then, the last door opened, and Spectre stepped in. He was larger than the others. His armor glowed faint red. His hands carried a massive plasma hammer. Rainery limped forward, panting. "You're mine." "No," Garrick said. "He's mine." Spectre didn't speak. He just raised the hammer. Garrick pulled a small sphere from his belt. "A gift," he whispered. He tossed it. Boom! The explosion shook the entire ship. Smoke and fire blinded them. When it cleared, Spectre was down, barely moving, and Garrick stood over him, blood on his face, one eye swollen shut. The crew rushed to him. Rainery grabbed his arm. "You're mad. I was married to 3 powerful alien women. Fighting a death squad is the easy part." He smiled weakly. Later, as they floated in space once more, quiet, wounded but victorious, Lixa laid Garrick on the bed and wiped blood from his forehead. "You saved us," she whispered. He smiled. "No, you saved me." Rainery sat nearby, arms crossed. "We're not done. Kothar will come next time." "I know," Garrick said. Yali walked in holding a small, glowing crystal. "Then maybe we stop running. Maybe we fight him." Garrick looked around at the women, the fighters, the healers, the voices of strength and warmth, and nodded. "Then we end this. Together." Far away, Lord Kothar crushed a datapad in his hand. "All 12? Defeated?" The shadow-robed woman beside him bowed. Spectre was found alive, but broken. Kothar's eyes glowed red. "Prepare the fleet. The final hunt begins." They didn't want freedom. They wanted him. The Solace drifted near a dying sun, its hull scarred from battle, systems barely holding together. Inside, it was quiet. Not peaceful, but the quiet that comes before the storm. Garrick sat alone in the cockpit, staring at his reflection in the cracked window. His face was bruised, one arm bandaged, eyes tired, but burning with purpose. He wasn't the same man who stepped into that auction ring on Draxus. And the girls. They weren't prisoners anymore. They were warriors. They were family. They were his. Rainery entered the cockpit first. She no longer wore ragged clothes. Her armor, though damaged, was strong. She moved with confidence, like a lioness ready for war. "We should attack before Kothar attacks us," she said. "We can't outrun him forever," Garrick replied. "We're not running anymore," Yali said from behind, stepping in with a glowing datapad. "I found something he won't expect." She placed the pad in front of Garrick. "A back door into Kothar's main command ship. He uses old Earth tech to power his throne. That makes him vulnerable. He's sitting on a system I helped design," Garrick said, a flicker of old pride returning. "That's his mistake. We can finish this," Lixa added, walking in holding a small explosive orb. "But we have to go to him." Garrick looked at each of them. No fear in their eyes, only fire. The plan was simple and insane. The Solace would enter Kothar's Empire zone under stealth, using Yali's jamming frequencies. Rainery and Garrick would board the command ship. Lixa would set the charges. Yali would hack the system from orbit. It would only work once. If they failed, none of them would leave alive. But none of them hesitated. They jumped into Kothar's zone near the planet, Feltraxis, his throne world. The planet was dark, wrapped in storm clouds, surrounded by warships. The Solace slipped past them using Yali's code. "I can't believe this is working," Rainery muttered as they landed on the upper deck of Kothar's flagship. Garrick checked his weapon. "It won't for long." Inside the fortress ship, alarms started before they even touched the floor. Intruders detected. Raynari kicked down the first door, slicing through 2 guards. Garrick followed, firing clean, controlled shots. Lixa rushed to a power core chamber, dodging fire and crawling through vents like a ghost. Yali, back on the Solace, sat in a trance, her fingers dancing over light panels. Security is dropping, cameras down, 10 minutes window. In the throne chamber, Lord Kothar stood, armored, waiting. His red cape flowed like blood. His fingers tapped a control orb beside his throne. "They came to me," he whispered. "Fools!" He pressed a button. 100 drones activated. As Raynari and Garrick entered the throne chamber, they were met with a wall of steel. Kothar stood above them, smirking. "I offered you chains. You chose pain. I chose them," Garrick growled. Raynari leapt into battle, her blade meeting Kothar's energy hammer. The throne room became a war zone. Sparks flew, walls shook, explosions echoed. Raynari screamed, in rage, knocking Kothar backward. Garrick fired, hitting a weak spot in his shoulder armor. But Kothar was strong, too strong. He grabbed Raynari by the neck, lifted her. "Tell him goodbye," Kothar growled. Bang! Lixa appeared behind him, throwing a stun grenade. It exploded in his face. Raynari dropped to the floor. Garrick grabbed her hand, pulling her to safety. Lixa helped them up. "We have 90 seconds, she said. "Yali is overloading the throne's core." Kothar stood again, helmet cracked. "You think you've won?" he shouted. "I didn't come to win," Garrick replied. "I came to end this." He opened a side panel, exposing the core link. He inserted a small crystal chip. "Earth-made." The floor trembled. "Code injected." Yali's voice echoed. "Overload in 60 seconds." Kothar roared and charged, but this time they fought. Together, Raynari blocked his hammer. Garrick shot his knees. Lixa stabbed a blade into his side. Kothar fell to his knees. "Who are you?" he gasped. Garrick leaned down. "I'm just an old man who loves his wives." Then he dragged the girls out as the core reached critical. Outside, the Solace hovered, ramp open. Yali screamed from the cockpit. "Hurry!" They ran. The fortress exploded behind them, flames lighting the void. Inside, they all collapsed, breathing hard, alive, together. Weeks later, on a quiet moon near the edges of known space, the Solace had been rebuilt. Raynari trained local rebels. Yali helped teach alien children how to read data systems. Lixa opened a healing clinic. And Garrick? He was planting flowers. "Retired again?" Raynari smirked. "Officially," he said. "You sure?" Yali teased. "No more kings to fight?" "Just weeds," he smiled. Lixa brought him tea. "You really did it. You gave us freedom." He looked up at her. "No," he said. "You gave me something better." Raynari walked over, tossing him a small data chip. "What's this?" he asked. "A record of your new status," she said. "Galactic. Title," he joked. "Better," Yali smiled. "Family leader, legally bound. 3 wives, 1 future." Garrick blinked. "You're serious?" Lixa took his hand. "We didn't want freedom. Not anymore." Raynari grinned. "We wanted you." As the sun set on the quiet moon, Garrick sat between them, no longer alone, no longer haunted. They were not his slaves, not trophies, not passengers. They were his choice, and he was theirs. Together they had defeated power, cruelty, and death. Together, they had made something stronger than war, a home, a bond, a family.